Hey everyone, we have Ian Grame on today from Key Realty. He's joining us as I met him at a meetup a couple months ago, and we've stayed in contact. And we're just going to talk a little bit today about mindset, personal growth, and see what he has to offer. Ian, welcome aboard.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. I appreciate it. Yeah, I want to say thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's my pleasure to be on here to be able to just chat back and forth with you a little bit. And I also want to say this too. I just really appreciate just a few interactions we've had with each other, some of the insights you've given me, and I really appreciate just kind of the wisdom that you bring to real estate. And so I'm sure a lot of the audience does as well. So I just want to thank you for that.
Awesome. Yeah, no problem. So, give us a little background on you. Like, who are you and what got you into real estate?
That's a great question. So again, my name's Ian. I grew up in Cleveland. After college, I moved away, lived in a few different places, Massachusetts, Abu Dhabi, California, Vegas, and then about a year and a half ago, moved back to Cleveland, back to my roots, my hometown, and so I got into real estate at that point. So I'm kind of relatively new in real estate, but I would say I've been hustling, and so that's kind of been my method of success. It's not necessarily being, more skilled than other people at this point in my career, but I am definitely someone that hustles. So, and that I think makes up for a lot of other things.
Yeah, definitely. I see you. I mean, we met at a creative finance real estate meetup, and you seem to be working a lot with investors, which can be a little bit more work, but
Oh
you're
my
doing it.
gosh, yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I will say this, like, I think a lot of people they see real estate agents and they just have this idea that a real estate agent, just shows you a house or two, and then they basically get like a $10,000 commission check. And I will say that that does happen, but it's more like the needle in the haystack kind of situation, especially here in Cleveland, where property, values are a lot lower than you might see in other states. So your average house price in Cleveland's around $200,000, whereas, across the country, it's upper 380s. So obviously real estate's cheaper here, which is, has the positives and negatives. So lower commission checks, have to work harder. But the good news is affordable real estate here, which is a really, really good thing if you're an investor.
definitely, definitely. Yeah, you just have to make more deals happen for you to make it worth it. But
Absolutely. Yeah. I seem to be the king of finding like $40,000 houses for my clients. So
yeah, yeah, I've seen some of the ones that you've thrown out there, so I'm closed on
yeah.
those. But yeah, so as and we're gonna talk about today, when you're working for yourself, you really have to be pretty strong, especially when it comes to mindset, your personal growth and self improvement. So let's talk about the things that you do to keep yourself accountable.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's a great topic. And I would say this, I've always been someone that's been very structured, very left brain, as far as things go. Like I like to make lists. I like to have ordered tasks for the day, for the week, for the month, for the year. I'm not necessarily as type A as some people are, where I have like a checklist that I'm going through, all the time. But I do always have that in the back of my head. Like I have strategic goals and I'm always working towards them. And I think I found that in life, it's good to have a balance between the left brain and the right brain. And if you're not familiar with left brain and right brain, left brain is more the logical side of thinking. It's more mathematical, logic focused, whereas the right brain is more creative focused and it's a little bit less structured, I would say. And so, people have found success doing lots of different things, right? There's people that have, again, like people make money doing a lot of different things and everyone's a unique individual. But I will say this, I have found to be successful in things, I think having a good balance is really, really helpful. And so going back to your question, setting that, using that left brain side of things is really important. Setting goals, I think, and I won't get too deep into this, but I will say this, that one thing I've learned is that when you set an intention for something, whether it's a goal that you write down, or even it's just something that you just kind of think in the back of your head, or maybe it's something that you tell someone that you'd like to happen, even just a simple fact of writing it down or telling someone, or even just having that kind of in the back of your thoughts, that's like the first step needed to create something. And because if you don't have a vision, it's really hard to get there. But a vision, all it starts with is basically having a direction that you want to go in, and then having some endpoint somewhere down that direction. And as soon as you are able to do that, things just start to magically happen to make that come to pass. And it's really interesting how that works. And you probably know what I'm talking about, right? Like you just hear about something new, and then all of a sudden you're like, hey, I think I'd like to try something like that. And then you just set an intention, and before you know it, 3 months later, it's part of your wheelhouse,
Yeah, I will definitely say, yeah, like I would say the speaking it into existence is like huge because sometimes you don't even believe it at first, but you keep talking about it and saying it out loud to other people. They might not even like they're not holding you accountable, but you are thinking they're holding you accountable, like in your brain. Like you're
Right.
like, well, I told this person I'm going to do it. Do they really care if you do it or not? Probably not. But it's just the more you say it, the more you talk about it, the more of a reality it becomes. So
Absolutely. Yeah, and you mentioned, speaking things into existence, and then you mentioned not necessarily even believing in it, right? And that's interesting that you brought that point up, because one thing I found is that most of our lives, or most things in our lives, are really just us learning to believe in ourselves in a certain facet or area. So I don't know what your experience with real estate has been. I'm sure everyone's different, their journey. But I would say from my experience, I've come to find out pretty strongly firsthand that, if I set a goal, or if I think something, or if I want something, most of the time I don't necessarily believe that I'm ready to have it yet, which is why it's a goal. It's kind of like something that's far off in the distance, right? But that's the first step. And then typically what I've experienced or discovered is that we go through the learning process, or you could call it a learning process, you could call it a learning curve, you could call it whatever you want to call it. I could use spiritual terms, I could use real estate terms, whatever the case may be. But you go through a process basically where you're actually cultivating the type of person and character and individual within you that you need to have in order to create that, or to bring that to fulfillment. And so it's just kind of like this cycle that we're always going through, right? You see something, you're like, oh, that's cool, I want that. And then the universe or God or the real estate gods or whatever the case is, they're like, well, you can't have that yet because you're not ready for it. But one thing I'll do for you is I'll actually take you on a journey where you'll learn some lessons. Maybe you'll take some hard knocks and things will get a little rough for a little patch. But at the end of that, you'll actually be the type of person and have the character needed to embody that. And then it's not just something that you like drew in from law of attraction and it disappeared the next day, because that does happen sometimes, but it's actually something that you can embody and carry with you for the rest of your life. And not only that, but then you can bring it and teach other people how to do it too.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's I don't even know how to exactly to explain it sometimes, but yeah, you're when you're working towards something like your goals, you're I mean, you have to set stepping stones. Like a lot of people have a goal, or I would say a lot of people actually have a dream, not so much a goal, because you actually need to plan out a goal to get there. Um,
Right.
and most people are just like, I want that, but they have no clue how to get to it. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, building that up to, I guess, bring out who you really need to be to get to that goal is really important, and is learning yourself along with learning the people that you need to be around. So
Absolutely, yeah. And as you do set dreams or goals, or typically dreams later on become goals, and then
yeah,
goals later on become reality, right? But as you kind of go through that process, you naturally, again, through law of attraction, through just the way the universe works, the way everything is set up, you just naturally you draw those types of things to you that you need. You can look at it on a scientific, energetic level. You can look at it on just a practical, like networking level. There's a lot of different ways to look at it, but long story short, it just starts to happen, right? As you become more interested in something, as you start to put more attention towards it with your thoughts and with your emotions and your intentions, like you just naturally get drawn to those places. You're like a magnet. And when you say all of a sudden, for instance, hey, I want to learn about creative financing, like that's your magnet that is now sent up into the atmosphere, so to speak. And you're going to start to see more events related to that. You're going to start to be connected to more people related to that. And the next time you hear the word subject to or something like that, you're going to, instead of it going in one ear and out the other because you don't know what it means, your magnet's going to be like, I need to go talk to that guy.
yep.
Right. And then before you know it, you have a new contact. And then who knows what's going to develop down the road from that.
Yeah, and that energy that you show when you're really interested in something and you're proving that you're digging into it yourself, that energy you show to other people, that's what brings those people to you and continue to build those relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was the guy Napoleon Hill, I think, wrote the book Think and Grow Rich. Am I correct?
I'm not
Is that
quite
who it
sure on
was?
that. I'm gonna have to
Okay,
go
I
back.
believe it was Napoleon Hill. But
Okay.
anyways, Napoleon Hill was he was a guy who was he studied, I think, for 20 years, something like that. He studied the wealthiest and most influential and successful business people on the planet, and this was about, I want to say, 100 years ago. And he wrote a book after all that time discussing his findings. And there was, I mean, I would recommend for anyone watching this, if you haven't read that book, absolutely, please get that book and read it. It's a game changer, hands down. It will challenge you at the very least, but it will also like it will stir you to growth, and it will really help you achieve the things that you want to achieve in your life if you put its principles into practice. But I say all that to bring up the fact that one of his principles that he discovered was creating not necessarily a network, but I think he called it a mastermind. But basically, the idea was creating a small circle or a group of people that you can meet with on a regular basis that have the same intention will just absolutely multiply your goals and bring them to manifestation much faster than almost anything else will. And it's the same idea that we just talked about is when you have like-minded individuals coming together with a single united purpose, sparks just start to fly. Ideas start to get created and just directions start to get formed and just things happen that would take you so much longer to do on your own. So I think it's just that's just one of those principles that every time I think about it, I'm like, wow, that is absolutely true. And it's so true in real estate, as I'm sure you've already discovered.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, real estate is a team. You need a team to do it. You can't do it by yourself. It's not going to happen, especially when you start getting into the creative world.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, what do they say? That's I don't even know who said it. Show me your 5 closest friends, and they'll show you who you are, or something along those lines. Because the people you hang around with, you're just going to be like those people, whether you want to or not. So,
right.
Yeah,
So choose wisely.
Yeah, get in the room with the people that you want to be. So,
right. And if they don't want to be your friend, then just buy them coffee every day until they change their mind.
Right. Just keep trying, keep proving your worthiness.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah. So let's jump more into the self-improvement. What are your goals, and how are you going to get to those this year?
Okay, yeah. So that's a great question. So for me, like I said, I'm a newer agent. I'm newer into real estate, but that doesn't mean that I'm not doing a lot. I just calculated all my kind of what I did last year as far as numbers wise, and I did a total of 19 transactions from January to December, which I consider very, very good for being a new agent. Again, a lot of those were, the cheaper investor houses, things like that. I sold quite a bit of land as well. So one of my goals for this year is to go from, I did again 19 last year. My goal is to do at least 36 this year. So not quite double, but I want to average at least 3 a month. And so in order to do that, there's a lot of steps that I'm going to have to take that are, going to help me get there. So I would say that's one of my real estate goals for this year. A second one is to buy 2 houses. So
Okay. So you're looking for investment properties like long-term rentals, or are you looking to go creative and use a different strategy, or what are you looking for?
I'm looking at a few different avenues, to be honest with you. So my long-term goal is to the buy and hold, right? And so, for a lot of investors, that's kind of like that's the end goal. People start when they don't have any money and they start wholesaling, right?
Yeah.
And then when they start to get some money, then they do some fix and flips. And then when they start to get some more money, they can kind of get into some long-term rentals or midterm or short-term or whatever the case may be. And so I would say, generally speaking, that's kind of my goal. I have a 10-year goal. Well, I guess it would be 9 years now. I have a 9-year goal to have enough passive income from rentals that I can do whatever I want to do with my time, basically. So if I want to quit my job, whatever my job is at that time, and I just want to be free. So I would love to be able to do it in shorter than 9 years, but that's just kind of a timeline I set for myself. So
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely doable and way faster than that. So it's just
right.
how much you want to grind, and it just takes like the right connections, as you know. Like you might be selling to somebody that turns into like a partner in the future. Like so,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts you want to add?
Last thoughts. I mean, I could, there's a lot of different things I could say. One thing I would want to just leave with the audience is this, like, one thing that I've really, really discovered is that your level of success will be capped by the amount of belief that you have in yourself. So however much you believe in yourself is the amount of success that you're going to have. And I know it's very interesting because a lot of times we live our lives in a false based sense of reality, meaning like we look at ourselves and we think very highly of ourselves and we think very positive of ourselves, but a lot of times it's a facade. right? It's a facade that we put on in front of the mirror so that we can look at ourselves and be okay with who we are, but also we put it in front of other people, because one of the most uncomfortable things in the world is to be in front of other people and not feel good enough, not feel successful enough, not feel smart enough or strong
Yeah.
enough or whatever the case may be, right? And so that's one thing that I've learned, is that the the main thing, or the root of what's capping my success, is really just my belief in myself. And it's the first step. The good news is that can be changed, right? And the first step is awareness. So, and it really just all comes down to like, well, there's a lot of different things it comes down to, but at the end of the day, it really just boils down to like, how do you view yourself? And it's part of life's journey, I believe personally, that we're all put on this earth and we get to experience this beautiful thing called life, where there's ups and downs and trials and tribulations and joy and sorrow and everything in between, right? And at the end of the day, we get to choose how we perceive our life based on all those circumstances, right? So on our upbringing and the way our parents raised us and what our adult figures told us when we were young and growing up, mix that in with all the DNA that we brought into our lives from our parents and their lineage, right? And so you mix all that together and we have this beautiful thing called you, right? Which
Yeah.
is, I don't know, to me, it's just fascinating. But that thing called you is the sum total of all of that, right? And that thing called you is going to be literally as successful as it has a capacity to be based on its view of itself, or your view of yourself. And so if you truly, truly want to be successful and take your career to the next level, and not just career, but your friendships and your relationships, and then your level of just be giving back to the world and all that great stuff, if you want to be able to expand that and to do more and do those things that you really have just buried deep down inside your heart that maybe you haven't even told people about because you're like, I don't know how that's ever going to happen, but there's still that desire down there. Like it's all possible, it's all within you. And if that desire is within you, it's there for a reason, right? And like kind of what we were talking about earlier, it's meant to come out. And it really is, like that's why you were put here on earth. And all you have to do, I'm making it sound really easy or really simple. All you really have to do is just look at yourself in the mirror and just know your value, right? And it's a journey for everyone. It's not easy to just change your perception of yourself overnight, and go from, man, like I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not whatever, and then just switch, right? It's a process and it's a journey. But if you can commit to that and commit to treating yourself better and thinking more positively about yourself and changing your mental thoughts about yourself and your life situation and where you're at and what you want to do, and putting a positive spin on it, like that is just one thing that you can do internally, and it'll start to affect everything externally. And I guarantee you, if you can start to do that and you commit to doing that, like your goals that you thought were not even possible, like you'll start to see those things happen and you'll be amazed. So
Yeah, that's
yeah.
awesome. So, Ian, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, whether that's to help them sell or buy houses or just connect, how do they do that? Where do we find you?
uh sure, yeah. I would say that, I mean, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, but I'll just give my cell phone number out in case you want to just reach me directly. It's 216-882-1056. Again, I'm a realtor here in Northeast Ohio, and I'd be more than happy to help you out with anything real estate related, even if you have questions about things. I am not a subject to expert like you are, so I might not be the best person to ask specifically creative finance questions about, but I'm learning and getting in the game. But anything else, I'd be more than happy to help you out the best I can.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, no, I'll link your profiles in the description of this video so people can find them easier as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, Ian, thanks for coming on and just talking about what you're doing and how you're growing in your business.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, no problem.